And good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Shaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Sorry about the late start this morning. Uh, Not that it was too many technical difficulties, but I kind of got caught up in my research just a little bit, but just really trying to make sure that I bring you guys the best broadcast I can, especially on this Women and Wellness Wednesday. It is open mic. So if you would like to be a part of the show, please send me a direct message on X. I'm under It's Our Turn RP, or you can email unfilteredvisionnews@gmail.com, and I will be checking my email periodically throughout the broadcast just to see if somebody would like to come up, and you might have a topic that you want to discuss or bring attention to. So thank you so much for joining us here this morning, and let's get into our Kids Corner.
Park. The laughter of kids and the warmth of the sun made him feel alive and happy. While riding his skateboard, Bailey spotted something, a small bird with a hurt wing struggling on the sidewalk. Bailey gently carried the bird home. "Mom, can we help it?" he asked. She smiled. "Yes, let's take care of it together." Every day, Bailey cared for the bird, feeding it and giving it water. Slowly, the bird's strength began to return. The day came for Bailey to set the bird free. Carried it to the park, hoping it was ready to fly again. That night, Bailey thought about the bird. He realized how precious life is, no matter how small. Bailey watched the bird soaring high in the sky. He smiled, knowing he had made a difference. Life is every small act of kindness.
And I know I've played this one before, but I really want to continue to play it because it's something that we just need to remember, right? Kindness is something that we have to continue to spread, and you'll kind of, it's going to be a little bit of an intense broadcast. I've got some food for thought. Let's just put it that way. That, again, we need to make sure that we are taking care of one another, because that's what we've gotten away from, right? Really just being human. We have so much technology and we have so many things and gadgets. But as opposed to it bringing us closer together, we're further apart. And it's in those moments when we realize that we're further apart that we need to intentionally make sure that we are closer together, right? And good morning, Spud McKenzie. Thank you so much for joining here this morning from YouTube and wherever you're joining from, Facebook, YouTube, or X. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News. And with that, let's get into honoring God with our body. God, please guard my thoughts and my mind. God, help me fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable, so I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of. And help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. And God, please protect my reproductive organs. Help me to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please help me walk in your path. God, please protect my feet. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you're just joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, that is a prayer that we say daily here, just to set our hearts and our mind right for today as we get into several topics that are going on. Now, the first one I want to get into, this is my bonus son. He's not, I didn't have him, but God has blessed me to be a part of his life. And I'm so grateful for him, so grateful for his mom as well. And I just wanted to share this video with you guys.
Cancer survivor. God bless.
Take your time, take your time.
Take your time. What does this moment mean to you?
Man, it means so much to me. This crazy dreams right now.
You got mom?
And I got moms to see all of y'all. She wanted to see y'all the most. I ain't gonna count.
Yeah. And so that is my bonus son, Avante Nichols. You can catch him on the new series on TBS called Dunk Man. And that is definitely happening here in Georgia. It's so cool to see him with his mom. And yes, his mom is a cancer survivor. So prayers and shouts out to her. And I'm so grateful that she is still here with us, because we are going to talk a little bit about cancer today on the program. And it has taken a lot of lives. It's even affected me personally, as far as relatives who have been stricken with cancer and have, recovered from it. And also my grandmother, wow, back in, I want to say 2004, she passed away from ovarian cancer, and she had survived breast cancer. So, on this Women in Wellness Wednesday, prayers out to those who are going through the challenges of cancer right now. So with that, I want to get into our next video. I wanted to kind of lift her spirits just a little bit more. Again, we go through a lot of news on this program. I'm just telling you, if you guys are joining us here, yeah, we get into it on this side of the news. So the first one I want to get to is I wanted to cover just three trending topics happening right now on X. And the first one is Trump vows no legislation until the SAVE Act. Now, we did talk about this on Monday, but it is one of the trending topics on X. So the Save America Act, introduced by Representative Chip Roy in January 2026, requires proof of citizenship like passports or birth certificates for federal voter registration, mandates photo ID at polls, and uses federal databases to remove non-citizens from rolls. Trump listed it as his top priority alongside mail-in ballot limits, bans on men and women's sports, and restrictions on gender-affirming care for minors. While allies like Elon Musk back it for election security, Democrats led by Chuck Schumer and Dick Durbin call it extreme and disenfranchising, with Schumer labeling it Jim Crow 2.0 amid online mockery of his population gaffe. The bill sits in committee as Senate Republicans weigh a vote. And like I said, it does affect those who believe things that aren't true, men that believe that they are women. I mean, you can't be born as Bob and then show up as Susan and expect to vote. Yeah, that's going to affect you, not me. Okay. Because, I have a passport. And to that, I think, if people need a passport and they can't afford it and they are a United States born citizen, and I'm not talking about people who have illegal parents here and they're just born on the soil. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people that are actually legal citizens of this country. Okay. I'm not even talking to TPS people, temporary protected status. I'm not talking to y'all. I'm not talking to refugees. I'm not talking to asylum seekers. I am talking to legitimate citizens of this country. Okay. I think they should be given a voucher to get a passport one time. You get a one timer, right? That way, everybody will have a passport if they need one. So they can vote. I think that's pretty easy. I think that's pretty simple. I think that would be a good use of our funds here in the United States. Because, I mean, on average, I think anybody's paid at least $130 in taxes within their state. Just saying. It would be very easy to do. Now, would we have to rule out and weed out people who would fraudulently get passports? Absolutely. And that would be very easy because this is all database work. This is all database work. But Good on the president for, sticking to his guns, right? Um, Now, James Tallarico, progressive Christian, views stir Texas Senate race. So the 36-year-old Democrat who won his U.S. Senate primary on March 3rd with 53% of the vote faces scrutiny over his speeches equating Jesus with the vulnerable, like immigrants denied due process or um, protesters detained by unmarked vans. He reposted a critical clip from Republicans with approval, citing Matthew 25:40 to affirm caring for the least of these, while critics label his views on Jesus as a radical feminist and God is non binary as blasphemy. Backers defend them as true to Christ's teachings on compassion. Polls show him leading potential GOP foes in deep red states. And here's the thing, this is antichrist behavior. Yeah, antichrist just means you're against Christ. We've got to remember that. Period. You are in opposition of Christ and his teachings. Now, if we go back to Mark 12, 5 through 13, it talks about how people will say they're coming in the name of Jesus. Do not be deceived. Like that's the next sentence. Do not be deceived. Okay? You need to use discernment when it comes to people using God to push their agenda. Now, he's using God. And the reason why I know he's using God is because he's being the blasphemy that people are talking about, which is kind of crazy because blasphemy technically is when you are saying that you are God or you are Christ, right? That's blasphemy. Now that would actually fall under the Pope because the Pope, the actual, I want to say translation of the Pope is being a deity on earth. That is blasphemous. Okay? It is. And that's according to that's just according to scripture, even the Catholic Church is scripture, right? And yet they have a Pope. And they claim that this human is a deity on earth. That is blasphemous. What is antichrist about what Tallarico is doing is saying things that are in opposition of Christ. God is not non-binary. God is a he. Very, very defined, very distinct. Just saying. Next topic. Let's see, James again, Mr. Tallarico. He is just he's running this roost. He faces backlash over Jesus' progressive remarks after primary win. So on March 3rd, right, kind of the same thing. Clips resurfaced this week, including claims that Christ is the immigrant deported without due process and questions about Jesus as a radical feminist, prompting accusations of blasphemy from critics like the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Supporters defend his words as echoing biblical calls to help the vulnerable, such as Matthew 25, while his campaign stresses loving neighbors over culture war issues in deep red states. The faith debate highlights tensions over religion and politics. Now, God already said, give to God what is God's, give to Caesar's to what is Caesar's. So Jesus already made a distinction. He also said that we are subject to the rulers and authorities. Basically, obey the law. Do not disrespect the law. Okay. But what Jesus never did was he never conflated the laws. He actually did things that made the teachers of the law and the Sadducees and the Pharisees question their actions, right? Like when he met the woman at the well and she had more than one husband, and Jesus pointed that out. And then people came and said, well, shouldn't she be stoned? And Jesus said, okay, all right. And he wrote something in the ground. And he said, any one of you without sin cast the first stone. And they all had to drop their stones and walk away because they all had sinned. And then he said, woman, your sins are forgiven. And she was forgiven. He is very distinct. God will never be mocked, nor Jesus, because he is word in the flesh. Stop conflating illegality with the Bible. People are breaking the law. You cannot cover them, right, with God's word while they are breaking the law, because Jesus already said you are subject to the rules and authorities. And if the law says it is illegal to cross a border, and you cross that border, you have turned away from God because you broke the law. Period. There's no turning back from that. The only way turning back from that is to try to make it right and leave because you've already done something wrong. Yeah. So you don't want to point out that part. So let's keep going. All right. Now, granted, I talked to you guys through this while I was reading on screen, but I have left the links below to each of those. I have to remember that. Sometimes I just get into it, y'all, and I'm just going, trying to give it to you the best I can. Right. All right. Checking my comments. Now, with that, I do have two. They're not funny. I mean, I guess I find them a little bit interesting, but we'll be getting to those. But the other topic I did want to touch on, if anybody noticed or if it had been brought to anybody's attention, I'm not sure, is in Maryland, and this was back in December, but it was something that I wasn't aware of, but I wanted to bring it up. So the legislature overrides Moore's veto, approves creation of a reparations commission. Now, this is in Maryland. What I find fascinating about it is that actually Governor Moore was like, we need to put things in place and not do another study, but he was overridden by his House and Senate to do a study. It's very interesting. So governor's veto of Maryland Reparations Commission bill shocked many, and its override became one of the focal points of Tuesday's special election. So it took years to pass and another 8 months to override the governor's veto, but lawmakers gave final approval Tuesday to a bill that creates a Maryland Reparations Commission. Now, this was back in December that this happened. Again, I just wanted to bring it up because let me go down to his quote. So Moore said in his May 16th veto message, and that was probably last year, that it was a difficult decision, but that now is not the time for another study. Now is the time for continued action that delivers results for the people we serve. So even he's like, why are we doing another study when you have enough information to actually put bills forward that are going to help the people? He's a Democrat. I'm just saying. They're losing the argument, y'all. They're losing the argument. It's sad. It's sad. But you gotta let people do what they need to do. But I wanted to bring that up because, yeah, you might not agree with everything that Wes Moore's doing. I don't agree with everything he's doing, but he brings up a good point. Why are we continuing to do studies on something where studies have been done over 40 years, literally over 40 years since the 80s, and you're still doing studies? And you're not looking at the money that has already been there for decades. I already told you guys about the Office of Civil Rights. Okay? That was just one thing. There's still other programs at the local level that can be implemented. And you don't have to call it reparations. You don't even have to call it repair. You just need to do what the money was intended to do and use it as it was intended. That's what you have to do. Instead of making new programs to siphon that money and use it for other people that it wasn't intended for. Just saying. So we're going to get into this next video. Now, this is about Don Lemon. Apparently, Mr. Lemon was on Bill Maher's show, and he was getting some different questions. So this is from, let's see. I think she could call it like popcorn moments or something like that, but she's kind of funny. And I did try to take out most of the curse words. Okay, because her language is a little spicy. So let's check this out.
Ain't in jail yet.
This statement from the administration.
This interview is to obviously talk about Trump and his war powers.
The president had the constitutional authority to direct the use of military force because he could reasonably determine that such use of force was in the national interest. That's too vague for you?
Totally vague.
Anything Daddy Trump says is totally vague.
Because that's from Obama about Libya.
Well, anytime a president, for any reason, anywhere in the world, for any length of time, will feel free to make war, and that would be hugely dangerous for the country.
Funny how it's not hugely dangerous to the country until he mentioned it was Obama.
First article of the Constitution, everything goes through Congress.
Please read the Constitution before you get on interviews talking about what the Constitution says.
Everything should go through Congress.
Switch that before you find yourself in a lawsuit before you take your ass to jail.
And if that is not happening, it should. And, Donald Trump is not a king.
Y'all are literally the only ones that call him that, though, while supporting actual kings and dictators. Fucking ridiculous.
He thinks that he's a king and he's being allowed to get away with all of these things that he's not a monarch.
Get away with what, motherfucker? Your fake fucking laws and rules that y'all fucking made up? Don't nobody have to follow those. Out.
But he gets away with it.
But the last time he declared war was 1942.
Lord, please tell him that shit again.
So this has been happening for a long time. I mean, that's true. 1982, you're talking about the War Powers Act and trying to take that away.
Well, sir, I really don't know what the I'm talking about. I'm just a slave, just like these niggers is slaves to these Democrats.
I mean, 8 times Congress has filed suit. Various presidents, Reagan in El Salvador, Nicaragua, Grenada, Reagan in the Persian Gulf, that's the Iran-Iraq War, George W. Bush, the first Bush in Kuwait, his son, of course, in Iraq.
Right, look real still and stupid right now. He ain't done.
In Kosovo, Obama in Libya. I mean, this horse is out of the barn.
You have to cut off the interview because now they're just going to say, but it's Trump. Like that's supposed to be a definition or explanation. Pam Bondi, hurry your ass and put this fucker in jail.
Okay. Sorry, I did not remove all the curse words, but I warned y'all. But the point that was being made is there were other presidents that did similar to what Trump is doing now. Now it's not okay. Okay. But overall, it shouldn't have never been done anyway. Yeah, there's a video that I'll make sure I post later on where I got to be a co-host on a different program on Let the Truth Be Told network. And we actually had a discussion about this with Chris Ann Hall, and she is a constitutional attorney. And what she explained was that Congress delegating their authority is not something in the Constitution. It is unconstitutional what they've done, but it was unconstitutional with everyone. Everyone, including Donald Trump, because we're not supposed to be in these conflicts if they're going to lead to war, which means you need to have a conversation first. Now, the unfortunate part about what happens in our country is if you talk to certain people in Congress, then the next thing you know, it's on the news. And the next thing you know, the people that you thought you were going to go into a conflict with, they know everything. Just saying. So we have spies and we have, different things going on our soul. It's just a mess. But at the end of the day, Congress is supposed to be involved in these discussions. And what the War Powers Act does is it delegates a small amount of authority for the president and his administration to go into conflict. And they only have 90 days. And within that 90 days, they have to go in and come out. So they've got 60 days to deal with whatever conflict they say, and they have 30 days to come out of it. People are calling it war. People are calling it a conflict. If you call it war, then you are in violation of the Constitution, because only Congress, who holds the purse, can say, okay, we're going into war. If it's a conflict, right, then you have 60 days to resolve whatever the conflict is and be out in that last 30 days. That's where we're at. So you're going to hear talking points, and I'll play some of those for you in the next videos I've got coming up. But yeah, it's a mess that we are in right now. And I think we have a good chance of sorting things out and getting things taken care of, because the one thing I know about God is he doesn't deal in confusion. God's pretty straightforward. Everything's pretty much laid out before you. He does not deal in confusion. So again, we'll see where this goes. Now, the next video I wanted to play for you guys, this is about Hakeem Jeffries and his stance on the government shutdown. Again, I'm prefacing this. There might be some spicy language in here. So I'm just preparing your ears before I play
this. This gotta be AI. This gotta be AI. I say this.
What's the reason why we are in a DHS shutdown right now? Because Republicans have refused to agree to the type of bold, transformative, meaningful, and dramatic reforms we are demanding in order for the Department of Homeland Security funding bill to move forward. One of those demands is keep ICE out of sensitive locations. And we've defined that as schools, houses of worship, hospitals, and polling sites. We want an explicit prohibition that ICE can go nowhere near any polling sites in the United States of America.
I don't even know how to do this video, because I know that he did not just admit that you got to keep the ICE people out of the voting because you need illegal people to vote. I'm okay. Somebody help me. So you want to keep the regulation out of the place that needs to be regulated. You literally just admitted that you got to keep the ICE agents out of the voting places because you need the illegal people to vote. I'm not understanding what is going on. You gotta be kidding me, bro. You gotta be Hakeem. Hey, King. Hey, man. Bro, are you done? Hey, oh my God. I think I got a boo-boo. Because I got to get this shit out of me. It's no way that... Are you retarded? Who is in charge of the publicity and the PR, the public relations over there at the Democratic Party? You guys say shit that I know somebody's got to be like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that. Oh my God. Like, you don't have anybody in charge of your mouth? Holy shit. Dude. Oh my God.
I'm sorry. She cracks me up. And I want to totally bust out laughing on the microphone. But she's not wrong, because he said it. Why would ICE need to be at any polling stations if illegals aren't voting? Because you've already said illegals aren't voting. What are you talking about? Then why are you trying to keep ICE away from polling stations? Specifically, you named them. Not once or twice. Not once, but twice in your statement. They're not protected anywhere. You know why? Because they broke the law. And they shouldn't be at church. And if any churches are protecting people that are here illegally, that I question if you're a church. You're a building that says that you represent God, but you don't. And we can go on down the line of who says they're representing God and who's not. And that's proper judgment. Okay? Because if you are committing evil and you say that you are for God, because people are not perfect, I will say that. But if you are outwardly doing things against the Bible, flat out, you're not representing God. That's why you do not have God's favor. That is why you are under God's judgment. Let's just be clear. God's going to deal with you. I don't have to. Okay? You've already put yourself under judgment, not following God's word. And that's just plain and simple. But the polling stations, you don't want ICE at the polling stations? What is going on? Yeah, just all kinds of admissions of guilt. So crazy. Suppose that ain't mine. I know. It's crazy. What outcome of the study? Oh, what was the outcome? We don't know what the outcome of the study was. They're just putting it in place. That's what I'm saying. Like, so for Dr. Rock, Zoe 4212, they don't know. And I think this is why Moore was frustrated with the situation, because they want to do another study. He didn't say, okay, now is not the time for a study. He said another. So there have been multiple studies. And this is even something that's been discussed for those fighting for reparations, right? Is that we've done enough studying. Where is the implementation from the studies? Why are there task force continuing to be put into place? And why are millions of dollars being put into these task force who do not produce anything that moves the needle forward? Just saying. Just saying. Yet they continue to go, we need another study. Are you sure? I don't think you do. But hey, we'll let you have it. Now, we're going to get into some heavy stuff. I hope I just kind of, gave y'all a little bit of uplift, something to kind of giggle about, but not really, right? Because that's crazy. We're going to talk about cancer in the CIA. And this is from Band.video, which is Alex Jones. So let's get into it.
They just declassified the CIA documents where they put poison in the vaccines, the food and water to dumb you down and make you easily controllable. Exactly as I told you. Because it's already been in so many other downstream documents. It's in the official White House briefing to Barack Obama by John P. Holdren. Here, I got it right here. See this? This was produced by the Rockefeller Foundation back in the 70s, adopted as law. Fluoride in the water, shots to dumb you down, give you cancer, kill you. It's eco-science. Population, resources, environment. This is U.S. government policy. Henry Kissinger made this policy, 74, year I was born. Paul R. Ehrlich, Annie R. Ehrlich, and John P. Holdren. Decades later, he's the White House science czar. You might want to actually find out this stuff. You might want to actually know they want to kill you and your family. Oh, we got some big CIA news. I'm going to hit here in a moment. New documents, they're going to blow you away. All right, I'm about to lay something on you. Incredible. And we've talked a lot about this for decades. And there are so many prestigious medical studies going back over 100 years where Western medicine thought they discovered this. But it's actually in the ancient Vedic scriptures of the Indians, 3,000 years old. It's in Egyptian hieroglyphs. You see the symbol of the pine cone everywhere, or the pineal gland. And we now know, and you see the ancient symbol going back to Mesopotamia, all of it, of medicine is two snakes around a stick, the DNA. And they knew, really by 1900, that sodium fluoride, or even calcium fluoride, that you need a tiny bit of, to be healthy, but tiny bit, is highly toxic to the pineal gland. that is the tuner. And remember, they've had Princeton and others come out proving ESP, measuring it now with devices person to person, and we all have it. And it's tied again to magnetic cones in the brain. And it's magnetic cones in butterflies and in geese and in everything that let them be born one place and fly thousands of miles to where they're supposed to, and then fly right back to that same place they were born. In the case of monarch butterflies, they fly 3 groups all the way up to Canada from Mexico, smaller ones. Then a big jumbo butterfly is born, who's 3 times bigger, who flies all the way back to the same tree that its great-great-granddaddy was born in, and does the cycle again. And it's all off these magnetic cones and their own little pineal gland that directs those. They have now declassified a 1960 CIA document with massive studies they did in mind control that not only is the pineal gland directing all of this is like the tuner, your free will directs it, but the pineal gland is the mechanism. Every cell in your body is an electrochemical liquid crystal that is receiving every form of energy in the universe, including interdimensional energy, which is reflected by the dark matter. And it gets worse. That the CIA knew that there were hundreds of classes from microscopic amoeba-like worms up to large worms, like the one Kennedy had that ate part of his brain. People make jokes about it. To the cat-borne worms that up to 1/3 of America has, over half of India has, that's associated with criminal activity, insanity, everything you see. It's the crazy cat lady. So they knew all this and suppressed that most brain cancer, most breast cancer, you name it, is parasites. And you're going to say, wait, the last few years we've seen all these doctors and scientists and people that were dying of cancer get on dewormer, not ivermectin, but another one, and they're cured. But they don't want you to know that because they've made trillions of dollars off of it, and it's about control. So the fluoride blocks, at a great extent, you're receiving and transmitting at the cellular level. It calcifies the pineal gland. And then the food supply, and so much of it, has all these different classes of worms. They get all in your organs, and then when they see all these worms in you, well, they don't treat worms. They don't look at worms, because the Rockefeller Foundation took over medicine really about 100 years ago and got rid of all that. That's why in the old days, they didn't know the name of it. They just called it, the tumors. Andrew Jackson got cancer all the time. When he got older, they'd say, President Jackson, drink 3 ounces of mercury. And it's deadly poison. But his cancer would go away. He'd get really sick for a week and vomit and throw up and go insane. They'd have to tie him down, but cancer would go bye-bye because it killed the worms. Well, you could take stuff that isn't that to get rid of it. Now, not all cancer is caused by the worms. But I'm going to come back and get into this. And at 4th hour, I'm in a whole deal on it. It's just insane. And the fact that they know they knew all of this. The whole attack is to suppress you, folks. You are magic. You literally are a giant antenna. You are a liquid crystal. What do you think water is? We'll be right back. So, I have been told by top generals, top scientists, you've heard them on the show, all this information that the CIA has now declassified, that they've known the cure for most cancers is dewormer. And again, there are parasites that are amoebas. They're single cell, but they're good size. You'll see them under a magnifying glass. You'll see them with the naked eye, some of the bigger ones. And then they got them right up to worms. Worms just don't get in apples, folks. And they knew all this, and they make fun of people, and they attack it, but it was well known And that's why people, before we had non-toxic or less toxic dewormers, would just take arsenic, mercury, you name it. Again, so many presidents today would have a big old tumor. The doctors say, this isn't going to feel very good. Take arsenic and take mercury. And they take it. And all of Jackson's teeth fell out from it, but he lived. So that's just one example. You look up Andrew Jackson. They have all of these amazing dewormers that are having in now major studies proving, and it's being suppressed. And here's the CIA in 62 knowing it, but more importantly, talking about we are all a liquid crystal. And we are a transceiver. That's in the document. CIA declassified research, the human body is a liquid crystal. And they even give it a breakdown code of the molecule. Superconductivity. And they created systems to manipulate and control it at will. And how they were using ESP with it that we broadcast. What did Princeton come out with last week? They don't want you to know this, but you already know it. Let me show you some more. Here's the actual CIA document. Now, there's thousands of these clips. These are medical doctors, scientists everywhere for decades. And you can buy this dewormer online. I haven't thought about selling it. We should. We'll just won't make any claims. And everybody every year should, according to the scientist I talk to, should do a regimen of these. I've been doing a particular dewormer he talks about for about 5 years once a year, just as a preventative, because it kills any little nasties that are in there. There's herbal systems that get it out of the gut, but you got to take the stronger stuff for the full body. And yeah, if you've got worms in your brain and stuff, be ready to take off a couple weeks. Because, when they die in there, there's toxicity to that. They have little dead things in you. But it's better than them up there, you having little meals. And they call those tumors. No, that's the area they've eaten. And yeah, they radiated. Oh, the tumor stopped growing. But now they fried your brain or your liver or your lung with a damn radiation beam. You don't need to shoot it with a particle beam. You got to kill the worm. The worms. Everybody knows you're in Texas 5-6 deaths a year. Don't get in warm water above 95 degrees. You can see the amoebas swimming around it. People jump in the lake, one goes up the nose, starts replicating, eats your kid's brain. Well, it's the same thing. And every time the kids go into the hospital, they never save them because they're not trained to go after amoebas. They just put them on medication to lower the fever, and then the kid dies, and they go, oh, God. By the time the kid died, he had 1,000 amoebas in his brain, and they ate the huge piece out of the brain. But you go into an oncologist, they tell you, oh, this kid got 24-hour cancer, because they aren't trained to know about this. I'm going to finish up with this and go to Jimmy Dore on the other side. But there's a lot of things out there to mitigate this, and we're going to tell you about that when we come back. And then Jimmy Dore is with us for at least an hour and a half. Really appreciate him coming on with us. Stay with us. So, CIA declassified documents last week, Operation Artichoke to poison vaccines, food supply, and the water to dumb us down to make us controllable. Now new documents about ESP control, how we're really electrochemical systems, liquid crystals, and the pineal gland, and how most people have microscopic to actual large worm infestations, not just from cats, you name it, like Kennedy has one in his brain. And they didn't tell the public most cancer, breast cancer, brain cancer is worms. Colon cancer, worms. Worms. This is unbelievable. I remember my dad telling me back in the 80s, he's a doctor. He was talking to other doctors. He said, no, a lot of this is these gay guys are all on meth and they're having hundreds of sex partners and they've got parasites. And I said, what's that mean? He goes, you don't want to know. They didn't want to tell these gay guys, hey, you got worms, dude. No, we're going to let you die, okay? So, yeah, you got a tumor. That's what the worms have eaten. But here's the last thing I'm going to say. Ladies and gentlemen, you can look it up. Go to the UN's own website. They admit it. Over 2 billion people have cognitive disabilities because they do not have enough iodine. In the 20s, they found this. How they put in the salt, IQs went up about 20 points on average, 15, 20 points. Well, we have the very best atomic iodine in the world. Has been available in several years, ladies and gentlemen. But we have the original X2 back, but even stronger, pure atomic. Atomic isn't radioactive. It means it's on the periodic table. It is absolutely pure. And I mixed that with ultra methylene blue that is also on record good for your pineal gland and reversing the calcification, the rest of it. Your Doc Chambers on, medical doctor, special forces colonel, Army colonel. And I said, what do you think of methylene blue? He goes, I've been on this since 2004. When I got blown up in Iraq, I had brain damage because it blew away the sheath that's on my nerves. So I did research and found out that they had studies going back over 100 years on methylene blue helping regrow the sheaths on your nerves and all the rest of it. Well, we've got the best methylene blue, and I just mixed the iodine with the methylene blue with this water. I'm going to drink this, and this is pure rocket fuel. So good for your body. Essential iodine with methylene blue together is amazing. Pretty scary looking, too. So, by the way, the new product exclusively available right now at thealexjonesstore.com is T3. It's
Okay, so he worked that in. Good on Alex. Working in the supplements. And I actually do take X2, and I actually do have methylene blue. I didn't know that you could mix them together because I actually have thyroid issues. So I make sure that I take X2 for my thyroid. Now, with that said, I wanted to go to the document that he was talking about. So yes, I did find the document. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see it. Let's see. Where am I at? 250. Yeah, y'all should be able to see this. Let me make sure I center it so nothing's off of the page. So it says Doctor of Technical Sciences, G. Servagay responds. And we're going to get into this particular doctor because I did do a research on Grok about this. So it says one might say that the brain, even the entire human body, is nothing more than a liquid crystal. As you can see here at the top, they misspelled crystal, so they made sure to update that. Liquid, put in quotes, in this case, has not been understood literally, of course. The substance of such a crystal might be physically solid. Its crystal lattice is clearly very dramatic. The electrons in it can, under the influence of different fields, be easily shifted from their own levels, and auxiliary electromagnetic fields can arise. Experience gained in working with the problem of the energetics of the human organism and the presence in it of a biofield are evidence of the fact that the brain is capable of creating the effect of superconductivity or a space tunnel effect analogous to electromagnetic phenomena in radio engineering. Since individuals are able to control this process at will, so we can control the process at will, to create a channel with an intense, concentrated biofield in the space between themselves and the object which they wish to influence. In some cases, ever microscopic bursts of ball lightning develop in such channels. The effect of these tiny clusters of electron plasma is analogous to the explosion of small masses of tritium. Such people are capable of destroying andosine this long words, triphosphoric acid, a substance responsible for the contraction of muscle fibers in the cells of small portions of living tissue and of causing palpitations of other significant phenomena. So when he talks about we are superconductors, we are magic, it's on the scientific level, they can kind of tell us like, this is what we see as science. But we were created this way to be connected to the source. And I hope you guys are following me on that. Because without us being created a particular way, we could not be created to the source. And our bodies, we long to be connected to the source. There are few people, even if they claim they do not believe in God, when they are in a situation, who do they call out for? Naturally, they will call out to God. Even if they don't believe in God, they say they're a complete atheist because we are connected to the source. Now, we've had evil, right, doing everything they can to disconnect us from the source. Yeah. So it says, in the presence of a committee of specialists, I observed one lady who had been placed in a dark screened room, a wrapper containing clean photographic paper and envelopes impermeable to light had been placed around her head. She was asked to mentally project onto this paper various geometric figures, a square, a rhomb, triangle, cross, etc. Later, when the paper was developed, the requested forms were clearly discernible on the paper. Another lady in our experiment introduced contractions in the muscle of a frog's leg, which had been placed in a physiological slutin, right? When the leg had ceased to twitch, she announced that it would now be impossible to revive it with any kind of charge. A thorough biochemical analysis revealed that the endocyne triphosphoric acid in the cells had been destroyed. So we are that powerful as humans. Why would something so evil want to take our power away? I guess that's the other question. I also looked at the book that he was holding up, Ecoscience, Population, Resources, and Environment. The book was published in 1977, okay, and explores the complex interrelationships between human population growth, natural resource consumption, and environmental impact. The book provides a comprehensive overview of issues like population trends, energy, food production, population, and the need for environmental conservation, serving as a foundational text in the field of environmental science. All right. Now, I looked it up, put it through Grok, and I said, can you give me background on the book? So I read for you basically what the book talks about. And here's the individuals behind the book: Paul E. Ehrlich, this gentleman here, and then another gentleman, John P. Holdren. Okay. All right. So they're Ecoscience and Standard Academic Text, Environmental Studies. For years, it received renewed public scrutiny in 2009 to 2010 during Holdren's Senate confirmation hearings, when conservative commentators highlighted passages that listed hypothetical population control measures, including various compulsory sterilization scenarios, right? Proposals once discussed in India, licensing systems, or theoretical sterilants in water. Okay, so I said, did some of the Rockefeller Foundation initiatives, right? Because you did hear Alex talk about the Rockefeller Foundation. Did some of the initiatives come from topics in this book? Not directly, but loosely related. Yes, there are loose, indirect connections between some Rockefeller Foundation initiatives, particularly in population, family planning, and environmental resource concerns, and the themes explored in Ecoscience. Okay, these links stem from shared intellectual currents in the mid-20th century, especially neo-Malthusian ideas about population growth straining resources, food supplies, and the environment, rather than any direct adaptation of the book's specific content or policy hypotheticals. Okay. All right. They're always trying to mess with humans. I don't know if anybody notices that. There's a certain part of the population, well, there's just too many people on the planet. Who are you to say that ever? And why is it your business? And why aren't you doing better to actually support people? Because for every person that dies, there's another person that is born. We have a natural ecosystem. When you start to interfere artificially with that system, then it's thrown off. And then you're standing back like, oh, what did we do? Yeah, that part. So shared broader context, Malthusian concerns. Woo, Malthusian. There we go. I was like, this word. Oh my goodness. So ecoscience is a quintessential neo-Malthusian text arguing that rapid population growth combined with high consumption and technological impacts exacerbates resource depletion, population, and ecological crisis. It builds on Paul Eric's earlier The Population Bomb in 1968 and discusses potential responses, including voluntary and more coercive measures to stabilize population. So that means, in plain language, they've just basically set up, ways to kill us without us knowing. This is just a nice way of saying it. But at the end of the day, that's what they're doing. Period. They want depopulation. They would rather their species, as they feel that the higher form of species should be the only species to repopulate the planet when they are incestuous, marrying their cousins, because they want to keep the same bloodline in the family. Just saying. And if anybody else that they bring into a Luciferian group because they are completely devoid of God. Godly people would never do things like this. Not true godly people. Right? But they believe killing everybody else while they survive is the best way to go about this. It's crazy. But this is who these people are. Now, the Rockefeller Foundation, excuse me, had long engaged in similar ideas. From the 40s to the 70s, the foundation supported population studies, family planning, and agricultural modernization, partly to address fears of overpopulation leading to food shortages, instability, and environmental strain, echoing Malthusian logic updated for a post-war era. And I'll definitely make sure that you guys have the links to all this. Now, there's no evidence of direct causation. There is no indication the Rockefeller programs were modeled or inspired by specific ideas in ecoscience, right? They just shared similar ideas, right? So I said, what changed in the medical system when the Rockefeller Foundation got involved? Okay, so when the Rockefeller Foundation got involved in the medical system, marked one of the most transformative periods in the history of American medicine, particularly in the 20th century. This influence was most pronounced through funding and implementation of reforms inspired by Flexner Report in 1910, along with broader public health initiatives. These changes professionalized and standardized medicine, but also shifted it toward a biomedical, research-oriented, and pharmaceutical-focused model. So we got away from natural remedies into chemical ones, basically. And the question is, are we a healthier society for it, or are we sicker? Yeah. We're not healthier. As you just heard. They finally let the cat out of the bag that a lot of the cancers that are out there are caused by parasites or worms in your body. Now, there are a lot of people that do natural dewormers, right? There are natural remedies out there, but there are also other remedies that are chemical, like ivermectin is more chemical based than it is, you know what I'm saying, herbal based, where you're just mixing certain herbs together or natural spices together to flush out your system. Now, me, I usually do a cleanse, a couple of different times a year. If I'm feeling kind of like, oh, I'm feeling wonky, I need to flush out something, right? Something's going on in here that we got to get that out of here. But interesting how ivermectin was suppressed a few years ago. And they were like, you can't take that. They talked against it. Anybody that brought it up, they said, you're a crazy person. Then they wanted to charge hundreds of dollars for it here. But in India, they were giving people packets of it, like a little tincture packet, like take this, take this, take this. I think it was like 3 medicines that they were taking combination. And like I said, like a small pack, selling it for about like maybe $2 American dollars, which might be more in money in India. But it roughly worked out to be like somewhere between $2 and $4. Yeah. So you're suppressing it. You overpriced it. And you wanted to make sure that people were afraid to take it. How many people's lives could have been saved? Now, see, that is a grievance against the federal government that everybody should be on. I'll say it. I'll say it if nobody else will. Hey, out there. Yeah, it's time. They are tyrannical. They are out of control, and they need to stop it. All right, y'all. I know I'm on a roll this morning. I don't think I'm going to be able to do too many commercials this morning, so we might go commercial free today. I want to get into this next video, and Alex is sending a warning. I'm not going to play this whole video, but he is sending out a warning about what's happening with this whole Iran situation and where we need to be ready.
This is such a big deal. I'm going to wait a few minutes to even release this information. Because if we just release bombshell, historic, critical, over the horizon, absolute hole-in-one information, and you don't have some fanfare and some spotlights and some, like the old Fox movie intro, dun, 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 then this won't punch through into the consciousness here, okay? But we're not out of the woods yet, okay? What do you think the neocons in Israel are going to do when Trump starts to shut this down? When they already had the troops massing and the 82nd Airborne ready and the Galaxy jets filling up with the troops and more aircraft carriers on their way, what do you think, riddle me this, Batman, what do you think the bad guys are going to do with all this lined up and ready to go? And them trying to overthrow Iran for 40-something years. What do you think they're going to do? The FBI just issued a big report. Stay strapped. Trump admin sends alert to law enforcement warning Iran sent encrypted message to trigger their sleeper cells. Now, what did I say Saturday when this war started 10 days ago, 11 days ago, on March 1st? It's March 10th. By the way, in the Roman histories, the middle of March is seen as the most dangerous time of the year for war. It's when wars usually launch. It's when leaders get killed. It's named after the god of war, Mars, and it's why you march. So we're told the sleeper cells are coming. We'll get to that here in just a moment. Actually, I'll play that first. Now, here's the problem with this. Iran has the biggest real Islamic sleeper cells, the largest amount of them in Europe, the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. They really have sleeper cells. They really are trained. They really have military officers who are deeply embedded for decades running Middle Eastern food shop, running a repair shop, running a computer store, running a rug shop. And the guy, is a captain in the Iranian Guard. And then he's got his wife and his sons, and they're all trained, and they got a weapons cache, and they got explosives, and they've been watching targets they're going to hit for years. And if they get the order, it'll make what you saw in Mexico a few weeks ago look like a cakewalk. And I said on Saturday, I expect to see sleeper cells activated the next few weeks. So I think Iran's going to wait and see how this goes. But if they think they're going down, they'll activate them. I said, but I expect lone wolves who are just pissed off about their pope being killed to attack. And I said, I would expect attacks in the coming days in Texas. Why? You have greater concentrations in Michigan and New York of Shiites, like little concentrated areas of them. But Texas has the largest number of Shiites in the United States. They're all over the place. They were all over the place when I was young, and they're really all over the place now. The first Muslims I ever ran into were Shiites.
Okay. I'm going to pause it real quick and just kind of let it catch up to itself. But yeah, a lot of what Alex is saying, that could happen, right? When he's talking about the sleeper cells being targeted, being, awakened. I was actually talking to somebody last week, and they were telling me, she was like, God's been sending me intel that there are going to be some attacks. Now, I had that conversation with her before Alex did his show on Saturday. And now he said this again on Tuesday. So, we all get our intel. However, we're getting our intel. And I'm not telling people to live in fear. Don't you ever live in fear. But you definitely need to have discernment and be wise of your surroundings, where you are at, and how you conduct yourself. Stay prayed up and stay focused. Right? Period. Definitely. And I was also going through some things. There's some things I'm not going to cover today because I want to do a little bit more research, honestly. And I want to make sure that I bring it to you guys appropriately in the right way. So I'm going to make sure that I'm respectful to you as an audience and do that. But like I said, I just wanted to take a pause for a second with what Alex was saying. So let's get back to it.
Know them well. Lifted weights with them. Played football with them. Know them. Been over their houses. And so, and when I see Muslims out and about, I can usually tell, but I'll ask them, are you Shiite or Sunni? I am Shiite. So, and I looked the numbers up. There's no official, but they estimate that, yes, this is one of the biggest Shiite populations. Well, I can tell you, it's the big one. So, people ask how I know this stuff. They go, how does he know? How a Shiite did attack? How does he know that? Well, you got the largest Shiite concentration, and the Muslims, for whatever reason, they just keep hitting Texas. They'll shoot up a high school baseball game, and it barely hits the news, and shoot the coach because how dare you, be out here? They'll shoot up a drawing Muhammad contest. So there's a lot of Islamic activity. So I just go, I think a lone wolf will activate without getting orders. I think we may have a lot of them. I think Texas will get hit first. So this isn't about me bragging. It's about understanding how my thought process works. A lot of other data went into that. So I said we need Texas to issue an alert, be on the lookout for lone wolf terror attacks. But I said if Iran thinks they're losing and it's about to go down, they will 100% activate the sleeper cells. Of course, if you were a crazy Shiite mullah and you have this apocalyptic thing and you're about to go down, you think your regime's falling, you're going to go hit the doomsday buttons. Every James Bond villain, when James Bond shot him, goes over to the reactor and pulls the lever to launch the nuclear missile. You didn't get me, James Bond. You didn't get me. But that's how psychology works. So they're like grabbing at the lever, trying to launch the missile. Well, their missiles can't hit us, but their real sleeper cells can. Now, here's the problem. Iran has sleeper cells. It's a real threat. We're a few weeks into this. Trump's saying, I'm going to obliterate you. I may destroy your whole country no matter what. Israel's talking about using nukes on them. That's when the mullahs would give this order. So when I look at this and ask, is this a false flag? See how this works? That's why this is going to be so hard to tell if it happens. A very good chance it is. Because it's going to piss America off and to be more pro-war. And it's going to piss Trump off if this happens. So if Israel and the neocons, if they think they're losing and that this war they've wanted forever is about to fail, and Trump's about to declare victory and pull back from this disaster, they can obviously have their own globalist operatives and cells ready to carry out massive terror attacks. And they'll conveniently leave, the Iranian passports and all the evidence all around. So this is the time of the false flag, and you got to have your head on the swivel. It could be Israeli operatives. It could be a cutout mercenary group. It could be Iranians. And we'll have to study how long, who they depended on's been here. But here's the deal. If it's a real Iranian attack, and the go code has been sent out to all of them to attack, they've already got protocols of how long they have to launch an attack. So you'll have a go code, and usually it's built in saying, you were ordered within 3 days of this message to launch attacks. And there'll probably be more codes coordinating when they specifically want it to start. Or they may just say fire at will. Probably, though, they're going to have a start date. Obviously, the go code came in yesterday, if you believe the intelligence. And I don't know, because we don't have enough information yet. Because everything fits both scenarios. The globalists need this right now. This is exactly what the mullahs would do at this point. Because I've been warning. So I'm going to tell you, I don't know yet. But regardless, it's bad. And so they got their orders yesterday to go. I'd imagine built into it, a 3-day build-up clause. Let me see. So they got the order Monday. We could have terror attacks as early as tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. There might be a 7-day build in there, but they hit the doomsday switch. That means go. If it's real Iranians, and they did give the order, I think the terror attacks start Wednesday. Latest Thursday. But this may, and of course you have all the famous spoofing by the CIA, Vault 7, the rest of it documents that, Edward Snowden, where they can even go to Iranian computers, send the orders over. They've hacked into all the Iranian stuff. They could have the real go code and send it to the sleeper cells that are real, but give them the order to attack. See, there's so many scenarios here. And that's the worst case. Because let me tell you, if you see hundreds of big attacks and you see just horrible stuff happening to high-rise buildings, we know the Iranians are trained to do, dump chlorine gas down on you, which you can get anywhere. I mean, there's a chemical depot over here for shops and businesses and everything with all the different gases you want. And as long as you're an engineer or working at one of these facilities, you can just pull right in. Somebody can just snip the fence, go in there. I could go in there. I would never do this. And I'm not giving the enemy anything they don't already know. I could pull in there with an 18-wheeler and get enough gas. The two types of gas I need to mix together because they don't have chlorine gas mixed up in the tanks. And then with 100 men, I could gas every high-rise in Austin in one day. Just to give you an idea. And we know the Iranians have trained to gas buildings. So I'm just telling everybody, this is serious business, okay? And but I don't think they're going to gas buildings. That's only one of their plans. I think they're going to hit the transformers at the key grid points and knock the power out. Only got to hit a few for each city to do that. And they'll use 50 caliber rifles to do that. You don't even need that. You can do it with a shimmy.
Now that's interesting that he mentions taking out the power grid, because there was a book, and I think I'll say it's got to be Dan Rather or one of the other very high profile media anchors. And he actually wrote a book about how the next world war would be based on energy, and how if they were to attack the United States, it would be either with an EMP or they would take out the power grid to destabilize the United States. So what he's saying isn't too far off from what people were talking about. And I want to say it's like maybe 10 years ago that it was being talked about. I'll look it up and try to, make sure it's one of the links when I repost this. But yeah. So Alex isn't too far off in what he is actually saying and predicting. And I know a little bit of what he's doing right now is ranting and just kind of wargaming what could be next. But we need to do that. Again, don't live in fear, have discernment, but make sure that you are being wise, right? Because again, destruction came and people were living like they were living in the days of Noah, just going about their business, just normally like, hey, nothing's wrong, nothing to see here. And they were not vigilant. They were not discerning. They just thought everything was going to be okay. We are not living in those times. We are living in times where you need to discern. You need to be on top of your spiritual walk, because this is a spiritual battle. So don't get caught on the sidelines just resting on your laurels.
Auto 300 Win Mag or anything like that. 338 will put a magazine into one of those things. They're done, and they're going to knock the power out. They might just go right to attacking, the state capitol with rockets. I mean, there's a whole list of horrible things. Police stations, military bases. But if the Iranians, let me tell you, if it's widespread, it's the Iranians. If we just see, 10 terror attacks, and then they really aren't giving us a bunch of information, and then, look, we got their passport, here's their confession, and then it's some weirdo that has mental illness or something. That's staged. That's a patsy. But if it's you wake up one morning and the power's out in 6-7 cities, and on the news there's smoke rising in every major city, and people getting shot, and cops being mowed down, and you hear pro-war governor's been killed at their governor's mansion, truck bomb, then the Iranians hit. But if you just see limited stuff or kind of something big and spectacular, that's what the neocons did in 9/11. Jets flying into buildings again or whatever, ridiculous, impossible stuff for regular folks to do. Then it's a deep state operation. So I think that's important to discuss. It took me about 10 minutes to break it down, but I told you that you would then hear the sleeper cell stuff before this even started. And I specifically laid it all out. So I've given you my thinking on it, a small section of it. It'll take hours to go over all my thinking. Iran threats on U.S. soil, sleeper cells, lone wolves, cyber attacks, and eerie number code. Yeah, the zone is getting flooded right now with that. Right on time. So I don't know. Now, Trump pulling back, at least signaling they may have sent a code countermanding. Because, they can send a code. That's generally how it is. They have different ones. Like, go to DEFCON 2 or whatever. Be ready to hit within the next 48 hours or whatever. And then they get a recall code. It's all the same. All the militaries, everything's the same. And it's not enough data points, but Trump suddenly going from 2 days ago, we're going to crush him, we're never going to stop, it's never going to end, annihilate, 20 years, whatever it takes, total obliteration, to, hey, we've done our objectives, we want to stop this now and everything's going to be okay. there's a good chance Iran has given the go for real attacks. So, I tell you what, man, Lindsey Graham, I love the fact that he gets up on TV and talks about blowing people up and killing them and gets all excited. And you can tell this guy can't find his ass with both hands, could not find his way out of a wet paper bag. And he just loves to talk about death and destruction and loves to talk about manipulating our country into total war. And the same thing with Netanyahu, and just Netanyahu's all of it. I'm just so sick of it. You're like, what do you like, the mullahs? No. I want them contained, and I want them in their own system. And if their people can free themselves, fine. But I don't have anything to do with their caveman religion. Get it out of my world. Don't go blow them up and then open the door up and bring them in here. Get them out. And if they really do something to us, blow the shit out of them. And they'll respect that and leave us the hell alone. All right. Actually, let's go to the sleeper cell clip first from Fox News, and then I'll go back to what Trump had to say in the other clips. Here it is.
Meantime, an alarming report of threats outside Iran. ABC News reports Iran may be activating sleeper cells. Quote, the U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran that may serve as an operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country. If true, further illustrating Secretary of State Marco Rubio's point, we are fighting a terrorist government.
The United States is currently engaged in an operation targeting the world's leading hostage taker, the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. They are trying to hold the world hostage. They are attacking their neighbors. They are attacking neighboring countries, their energy infrastructure, their civilian population. They're attacking embassies. This is a terrorist government. This is a terroristic regime. And we are seeing them conduct terrorism using nation-state elements, using weapons like missiles and one-way attack drones. And the objective of this mission is to destroy their ability to continue to do that.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Iran, you called it an excursion. You said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
You're talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very
to...
soon. Anywhere in the world, by far. And that's before we showed off our military strength with Venezuela and now with Iran. You know, Iran was supposed to be this big, powerful country. We wrapped the hell out of them. And, you know, I don't know when they cry uncle, but they should have cried it 2 days ago, right? But they don't have anything left. In our country, inflation is plummeting. So with your help and hard work, we're making America great again, and we're doing it much faster than we thought. And it's better, stronger, and our country is doing really well. I mean, at a level that nobody thought. We took a little excursion because we felt we had to do that to get rid of some evil. And I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion. How good is our military, right? Amazing. How good? Short-term. Short-term. Thank you. They're great.
Short-term pain, long-term gain. That's the new, 14 days to flatten the curve. That's the new talking point. Here it is.
This is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers. We may have to deal with that in the short term. Short-term and temporary.
Temporary short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain. Short-term pain.
Stay with us. South by Southwest, right here in Austin, Texas, that starts next week, is a prime target because you've got politicians, you've got billionaires, you've got tech leaders, you've got movie stars, all coming in, and it's very easy to basically get to them because it's so spread out and it's so many different places. Austin police to boost security presence ahead of South by Southwest in downtown Austin. South by Southwest 2026 opens in Austin after deadly West 6 shooting. Yeah, by a Shiite Muslim wearing the Iranian flag and a shirt that said property of Allah. Now, I'm not saying look for more terror attacks in Austin, though I did predict it 6-7 hours before it happened 10 days ago. That was a lone wolf. I don't know if the Iranians will want to hit these softer targets just to kill, some politicians. From what I know about them, they're going to go for the power grid or for big value targets or huge death numbers. So let me tell you, you dump chlorine gas down the ventilation, air conditioners in a high-rise building, you're going to kill most people in the building. You get a few whiffs of that, you're dead. So, and they have planned and trained. That's declassified. I knew about Iranian National Guard sleeper cells training to nerve gases, chlorine gases 20 years ago. That's just one little nasty. I'm just wondering if everybody know. They'll attack airports, you name it. They'll definitely try to truck bomb the White House, Pentagon. So, and again, the Israelis, who are famous for staging false flags, criminal elements in our own government, multinational contractor groups hired by consortiums, could just as easily stage the attacks as a pretext to get Trump to get back in the war and not start putting the brakes on it. Right now, I have the information in front of me, and there's so many data points, I can't tell you what I think is going to happen because the Iranian sleeper cells are real. This is the time they would launch them, and Trump's saying he's going to pull back now because of the economy and because he knows that his majority of his advisors were actually right. And this sleeper cell thing, if it is real, Trump's like, oh, really? Yeah, did you think about that? So I don't know. I can tell you this. There is a very good chance that you're not just going to see a few lone wolves pissed off that their Pope got popped like we saw in Austin. And like I said, if it's massive and there's hundreds of attacks or thousands, you'd see Iranians. Because the CIA and Mossad, they're not going to be able to pull that off because too many of their people would be seen doing it. You'll have a few big events like 9/11 if they do that. They'll shoot a missile in the Pentagon again and say it's a passenger plane. They could fly a plane into the Capitol like they tried, but the Air Force refused to follow orders and shot down 93. It came out in the FAA records, 2 AIM-9s out of an F-16. They gave the guy an award for it. But they give you a story about let's roll because you like it. So you believe they're BS. It's a fact they shot down 93. Well, can you imagine the police state we'd have had if they'd hit the Capitol that day? Nobody told them to evacuate either. Most of the Congress was there. Note to Congress, if high-rises are getting blown up, you see jumbo jets or whatever flying into buildings, get out of the building. I'm not laughing. It's funny. I'm laughing because it's sick. And let me tell you.
Now, I will definitely have the link so you guys can watch the rest of what Alex has to say on that, but he's not too far off, right? We have discernment and stay vigilant. With that, I want to take a quick break, and when we return, we want to look at the voting record that was brought up by Nancy Mace a couple of days ago regarding the ethics committee in Congress. So thank you guys for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we will see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Now, before we get into that voting record, I did want to play this video for you guys.
مسیحی می شوم عیسی اگر ثابت کند مرده ای را زنده کرده بدون یا علی من کلیمی می شوم موسی اگر ثابت کند.
And if you guys are wondering what that is someone of the Muslim faith in a church doing a prayer and chanting. Now that was brought to us by Wall Street Apes. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Because that's very concerning. You know, you're just, okay. You're just gonna go into a Catholic church and, you know, say that, right? Let me share that with you guys here really quick, just waiting for everything to upload. But it says Muslims are entering Christian churches in Minnesota. Now, this is in Minnesota, and chanting prayers to Allah in Arabic. They're filming it for social media to proudly declare Islam is taking over America. Islam is a national security threat. We must mass deport. This is intentional. And it's very interesting to me because I know I've been saying it's like, is it a religion? Or is it political positioning? And a lot of people have been asking that question. And the reason why I say, is it a religion or political positioning is because they keep trying to define themselves in this gray area of race. That's racist to say. No, it's not. You're not a race, a people. You are a block of individuals worshiping a certain way, right? And you're a Muslim under the Islamic faith. Okay, those are the followers that follow Islam. They're Muslim. That's it. That's what we're doing. But even in your book, the Quran, it says you're supposed to kill Christians and Jews specifically. Yeah, y'all shouldn't be here on American soil. You need to be somewhere where you can play nice in the sandbox with one another and stay over where you were at. This is my opinion. Now, there are some people that do not practice the Sharia law form of Islam, and they live peacefully. But does your Quran say the same thing, or do you have a different one? Like, at the end of the day, what you're practicing calls for mass murder. Like, what are we doing? What are we talking about? Facts are facts. We don't get to just, change the truth because it's convenient, right? Okay. So with that, I wanted to check out what was happening with Miss Nancy Grace, right? Because, late last week, she introduced a bill, House Resolution 1100, And it directed the House Committee on Ethics to preserve and publicly release records related to investigations into violations or alleged violations involving sexual harassment, unwelcome sexual advances, or sexual assault by members of Congress. So this was very specific, right? Because right now they're all virtue signaling, as she said, with the Epstein file, but they're acting up in our own Congress, using our tax dollars to pay people off for their misconduct. Okay. So it was a roll call vote on the motion to refer the resolution to the House Committee on Ethics. This procedural motion effectively killed the measure by sending it back to committee rather than allowing it to proceed. So here's the vote outcome. The motion to refer passed by 357 to 65 and one present, non-voting. So the 357 yays, okay? So the yays, because it makes it look like, oh yeah, they wanted to come to the floor. The yays were supporting and referring it to committee, okay, against advancing the resolution for a vote. 175 Republicans and 182 Democrats. Now, the nays opposed referring it to committee, and they were in favor of advancing the resolution. And it was 38 Republicans and 27 Democrats. Okay? I'm kind of glad the vote went through because now we can actually see some of these people. And I got a link to them, of course. Yeah. So this was a rare bipartisan vote to block the measure, with most members from both parties supporting the referral. Okay. So her vote, as a sponsor pushing for transparency and public release, she voted nay on the motion to refer, opposing the referral and supporting moving forward with her resolution. So in this instance, the nays were like, no, we don't want it to go to committee. We want it to go to a vote. And so it's very confusing sometimes the way they vote, because you would think, hey, they're voting on this. And we're thinking, the general public, that they're voting to advance it. They wanted to shuffle it back to committee where it could actually, as they say, where bills go to die, where it goes to be killed off. Okay. So here is the roll call on House Resolution 1100, and you can get any roll calls you would choose to look up under the clerk.house.gov and then go to votes. Okay. It's United States House of Representatives. Now, this is for just the House of Representatives, not the Senate. So not to get those mixed up. But yes, it lists the voting outcome, but it also lists the representative here. So you can find your representative. And this just has it mixed up between the yays and the nays. This is like everybody that voted, but you can definitely sort and filter it here. Who was yay, who was nay, who was present, and who didn't vote. Okay. There are a lot of people, sometimes they vote present, and I'm like, you're just shirking your responsibility to vote. Voting present. I'm like, what? Really? You're just trying to be Pontius Pilate in this situation? Anyway. So I was like, there's got to be a way to look this stuff up. Found it. govtrack.us, legislator misconduct database. So there is a database of their misconduct. So even if there's not really a subpoena, there's still a way for us to look some things up, right? I'm trying to make it big enough for you guys to see on screen. Let's go up to 200. Yeah, let's do that. So this page lists 507 instances of alleged and actual misconduct by legislators in the United States Congress from 1789 to present. Yeah, 1789 until present. So many entries on this page are politically motivated, especially ones that involve legislatures investigating and judging other legislatures through Congress's power to set its own ethics rules. So they set the rules on all the nonsense that they're doing. No outside influence at all. So we don't get a say in it. We the people, right? They're just You know, Fox watching the hen house. Or I should say Fox watching the foxes. Because that's what it is. It's bad. Okay. So in some cases, allegations are never proven, but legislatures often prefer not to judge their peers so that two may be political. And the types of misconduct that result in consequences have changed drastically over time. You must judge for yourself whether the conduct on this page truly is misconduct. So here are the types of misconduct, right? Let me make it just a little bit smaller so you guys can see some of this. It's one of those things, if I make it too big, it might not come off the right way. So let's see. Yeah, I gotta make it just a little bit smaller so I can at least read some of this nonsense over here. So what's included on the page, letters of approval, censures, and expulsions from Congress from 1789 to present. So those are some of the things you're going to find. The purple, which I know is a little bit small for you guys, like campaign and election misconduct, sexual harassment and abuse, that's the red. The green are just ethics violation. And then other crimes are in orange, and then blue. So you can see since the 1790s, they had like a little bit of an uptick in the 1800s. And then the 1900s, it kind of died down. But you can see from the 70s, it just kept climbing. What was happening here in 2010? Like, what's wrong with y'all? They had, 16 sexual harassment allegations, right? And 62 ethics violations, 10 other crimes, and then 13 bribery. The purple, which is up here, those are campaign and election allegations. But again, from 2010 to 2020, that 10-year, like this was a lot going. Who was in office? And yeah, we know who was in office at that time. But anyway, let's keep it moving. So now I'm going to make this a little bit bigger again because there's some things we need to see. Now, who was the person that brought some of these allegations forth? Oh, yeah, that was Nancy Mace. So she's at the top of this list, by the way. Nancy Mace is accused of seeking reimbursements that exceeded her reimbursable expenses incurred for housing for a total of $9,485.46. So they're basically like, you're asking for too much money in reimbursement for your housing, because you got to remember, they have to find a place to live when they're up there. They're just not flying back and forth from South Carolina to Washington, D.C. as they work when they are in that time when the house is open and they have to get their jobs done. They actually have to live in D.C. So they're not really given a per diem expense, which I think they should be, because it doesn't matter. You could say that anybody's, even if she was spending $5,000, if you wanted to say she was being excessive, right? Because she doesn't live there. She lives in South Carolina. She's just a representative. I'm not making excuses for her. I'm just saying this is how administratively some things work when you're looking at reimbursements. Now, the next person, Tony Gonzalez, okay, he is accused of engaging in sexual misconduct towards an individual employed in his congressional office and or discriminating unfairly by dispensing special favors or privileges. Gonzalez is alleged to have sent inappropriate text, right, to a staffer. He is alleged to have later had an affair with that staffer, and she appeared to have received extra financial compensation in that same year. The staffer subsequently died by suicide. Apparently, it's alleged that this woman set herself on fire. How do you set yourself on fire? Interesting. So, in March of 2026, the House Committee on Ethics opened an investigation on March 5th. Representative Gonzalez announced he was ending his re-election campaign, but intended to stay in office for the rest of his term. Gonzalez announced he was ending his re-election campaign, but intended to stay in office. Why you not running, bro? Yeah. So even though they haven't released the subpoenas, there is a way for us to look at some of the stuff that's going on. It might not be all of everything, but it is some things. Now you can see where it says it's unresolved, right? And you can sort it here, whatever the misconduct or allegation is. So you get whether they pled it in court, there was a conviction, there was a settlement, there was an exclusion. Everything is here. So I find it fascinating that she wanted to bring it to a vote. Again, I'm glad she did because it exposes where people are in our Congress, especially within the House of Representatives, the individuals that always brag about them being the ones that hold the purse, right? Yeah. Now, there is one last video I wanted to share with you guys before we get out of here, just to give you a little bit of hope. And this is a video from Manhattan. Yeah, so that's in Manhattan. So there is revival breaking out all around this world. There are people seeking God everywhere. And you're supposed to seek God. Now, if you can find other believers to converge with, that's awesome. But it should never stop you from seeking God. Where two or more are gathered in my name, there I will be also. So let's just keep that in mind and remember that. And with that, we are going to end today's broadcast. We'll be back tomorrow for our Mighty Men Thursday. It will be open mic. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.